Hey Andrew, guess what?
What's that, Sam?
We went 4-2 on this road trip, but the injuries are stacking up.
Put me in, coach.
Exactly. Alrighty, well, another episode, and Andrew, we have a couple games to discuss, especially that crazy Colorado game, which we'll get to. But how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Sam. How are you?
Doing well on this fine Sunday evening. But first, as usual, we have a great partnership with SeatGeek. You get $20 off of your first purchase if you use promo code Caniac Reports, all one word. It is a great deal if you're trying to save money on some tickets. And also remember, for you guys listening to us through Apple Podcast, there is the Caniac Report Plus, just another way for you to listen to our episodes, but they are ad free. And remember, if you are listening to us, please hit um on the podcast side of things, of course. Please subscribe, leave a rating, and leave a comment. It really does help us out. And if you're watching us on YouTube, as you guys know, I'm wearing my Whalers jersey. But please leave a like, a comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you never miss another episode. We will greatly appreciate it. And as I noticed in the last episode, as I was editing while watching the Colorado game, I realized we had some technical difficulties. Sorry about that. I tried to edit as much as I could to make it sound good. So, um, but NHL news, Andrew. One piece of news did. I mean, it's the worst kept secret, obviously, because we knew Carter Hart was going to Vegas, but he officially signs a 2-year, $4 million contract with Vegas. What do you think of that contract, Andrew?
Off the ice stuff aside, if he can return to the form he had in Philly, that could be an absolute steal of a deal. So Vegas continues to do tidy work at the expense of maybe doing the right thing. But best of luck to him.
Yeah, I know. Vegas, I mean, when it comes to goaltending now, they have Carter Hart, Andrew. I mean, it's pretty solid when you have Hart and Aiden Hill. Not bad.
Yeah, no, I think that this might make them the favorites in the West. It really could.
Yeah, I agree. I really, really do agree. And we're facing them again Tuesday night at a weird time. Again, we 6:30 p.m., which is weird.
Man, after having to stay awake till 1 to catch the last 6 games, I'm okay with it.
I am too.
Yeah.
But it is weird. The next thing I want to talk about, a couple of milestones have been reached here. One was Nikita Kucherov. I know Tampa's kind of off to a slow start, but I still think Kucherov is probably one of the most gifted goal scorers in this league. But he hit his 1,000th career point. And Andrew, what do you think of Kucherov in general, or him hitting that milestone?
Yeah, he's definitely one of the best players of his generation. He plays with an edge, but he's also one of those guys who there's some guys who make it look like it's all effort. He'll look like he's taking a play off and then just out of nowhere is just putting it in the net. So great player and congrats.
Yeah, congrats to him and Ovechkin. I mean, he keeps hitting records. Obviously, the biggest one was the Gretzky record, but he played his 1500th game recently, which is funny because we're going to be talking about another player later with the Colorado game with Brent Burns. But Andrew, it's very impressive no matter who you are to be playing 1500 games in the NHL.
Yeah, it's the same number that Burns just hit, right? So
Yep.
I mean,
Hmm.
these guys, the the longevity that players can have now because of the advances in sports medicine is crazy. Because I think kind of contrary to Burns, who we know is the guy who's like always doing like the protein shakes and taking care of himself.
Yep.
Ovechkin is like famous for like having like Subway with like Cheetos and stuff like that. So he's kind of cut from an old school cloth in that regard. So he's just a monster, dude. I think there's not going to be a player that I'll be happier to see retire because he single handedly has been the face of that franchise for about 20 years now. So congrats. Love to hate you.
Oh yeah, I call him Oven Chicken as his nickname. So
Yes.
that'll probably anger Capitals fan. by saying that, but I don't care. But
It's
that's
all
kind of
fair
it
to
for.
do.
Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of it for NHL news. Now the Hurricanes news, and yes, the Hurricanes news is basically going to be on the call-ups and the list. It's no longer just a couple players, but a list of injuries, Andrew. But Bradley Nadeau was called up. This was before the Dallas game, but Andrew, I was kind of happy. I mean, we knew we had to bring up someone, but I was kind of happy we brought up Bradley Nadeau because, I mean, he's a very good offensive threat.
Yeah, it gives them some options. You can tell that he was definitely sheltered in that first game, which probably makes sense. I was a little surprised they maybe wouldn't have gone with Yasko or Smith, just knowing they were going to put him on the fourth line. But that being said, get the kid some ice time, maybe see if he gels with any of the players, and if he can off and get rolling, maybe he can be the solution to the power play. If nothing.
Yeah, definitely. And the next thing is this actually happened 30 minutes ago before we recorded, but we recalled Dominic Finksor and sent the goal down. Honestly, I mean, just looking at our defense, like that's probably the area I'm probably a little bit more concerned. But at the same time, I think how our rookie defensemen are handling that pressure is they've been doing pretty good. I think it could be a lot worse, Andrew.
Yeah, they were definitely put in a tough spot for a rookie to have to come up and fill in for one guy is tough, but when they're having to play with each other, I think that they've done an admirable job stepping up to the plate, and they were a big part of that win in Colorado for sure. I'm guessing maybe Vinsori getting brought up seems like he's really tearing it up in Chicago, so maybe just thinking he might be able to provide a little bit of offense because with Ghost out, with all due respect to Keandre Miller, who is an offensively gifted player, maybe Fensori is just more of a puck handler, which I think is something that they're desperately lacking on the power play.
Yes, and the power play, they're actually ranked 31st in the league, and I'm pretty certain Calgary's number 32 in terms of just power play stuff, just because their offense has not been good. But Andrew, like, how do you remedy that power play?
I think it's on the players, honestly. It seems like they are always trying to look for that one pass too many, waiting for someone else to do something instead of maybe playing a little bit of, to use a basketball term, a little bit of hero ball and just put the puck on. It seems like whenever they get that extra man, they feel like they have to pull off some highlight reel play instead of just doing what's made them a successful team. So I know the coaching staff has been getting a lot of heat. I highly doubt that they're telling them in practice to do that. I think that's all just the players being a little bit too cute with the puck. So maybe it's time to put Stahl or Martin Hook on the power play and just kind of do what they do sometimes 5-on-5. Just show them how to do the little things right.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy you mentioned Jordan Stahl because even though he's probably doesn't have the offense to run a power play, I think because of how big he is, I think he's an excellent guy to just plot right there in front of the other team's goalie and hopefully screen him. I think
Yeah,
it'd be
that's
excellent.
Yeah, that's kind of where my head's at with that one too, because in the game against the Dallas, that was how they scored two of their goals, is just having a big dude out in front. And Jordan Stahl, he does have the capacity to go on hot streaks of goal scoring. So
Yep.
at this point, I don't know why you don't try it, and I don't know why you wouldn't maybe send a message to the what's supposed to be your top flight talent guys that hey, we're going to put Stahl, Martin Hook, and if they weren't hurt, I would say maybe even just the Robinson and Carrier out there. Just send the dogs out there and just let them just hound the puck and just see if they can get something greasy with all that extra space. But it's a growing concern.
It definitely is. Well, I know you mentioned Carrier, and that's kind of good segue into the injury list that the Hurricanes have right now. Robinson, apparently, he might be out for a while. Now, when Moore says out for a while, honestly, that is a very vague statement. He could be out for the next 2 weeks. It could be out for the next 3 months. We just don't know when it comes to Moore's language on that type of stuff. But Carrier, again, out for a while. Again, we don't know what out for a while means. Keandre Miller, he's considered day to day. That actually gave me some optimism. I'm hoping Miller comes back soon. Then obviously you have Jacob Slavin out, Shane Gostisbehere out, Pyotr Kochekov out, even though I'm loving Bussy.
Mhm.
And just a lot of players being out. And what's interesting, Andrew, I mean, we'll cover the Robinson and Carrier injuries, but I think in terms of our forward group, we can probably a little bit more afford of having those guys out than, let's say, our defensemen, just because of the amount of defensemen that are out. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, and on paper, it's none of your top tier guys, but it's the
Yeah.
guys who have been working. It's the guys who have been producing, and you especially hate it for Robinson and Carrier because they've gotten off to such a hot start that maybe they were starting to carve out a more significant role on this team. So hope they get better soon. I feel like those are two guys who have kind of cemented themselves early in the season as being like identity players for this team. So you hate to see them both go down so early. So hopefully it's a case of Rod thinking that 2 or 3 games is a long term.
Yeah, that is really what I'm hoping. And another thing too, I was kind of thinking about those injuries. Again, I've been thinking about those injuries a lot with Robinson and Carrier. And this is not me saying I want them out, but I like the effect that it brings because again, I love those guys. I hate that they're out, but I like that the effect that it brings in the way that it puts more pressure on your top six to actually score. You can't just rely on Robinson or Carrier to kind of like obviously the end goal is a Stanley Cup. And in order to win that, you're going to need your Ahos. You're going to need your Ehlers, Jarvises to win it for you. Robinson, Carrier, they're great, but they don't have that same effect or same skill as Aho and Jarvis. So, what do you think about that? It kind of does put more pressure on the top six to score more.
It absolutely does. Luckily, I do think that top line is finally starting to
Yep.
gel a little bit. Ehlers has had a couple of really tough bounces in his own end, but outside of that, I think he's been much more noticeable. He, Aho, and Jarvie all seem to kind of be finally getting it together. The further we go along, it's not that I don't want him to be on the ice as much as possible. I'm starting to wonder if maybe the Stankoven experiment's not going to work out. He hasn't been particularly great in the face-off circle, and I don't think it's an effort thing. Maybe it's just not his thing, and that's pretty crucial to the centerman position. But yeah, I think they've been starting to step up a bit. They haven't reached their full potential, but definitely some encouraging signs there outside of Svech, who is probably the biggest guy right now that we're all looking at. Like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
This is your time to shine, buddy. Step up.
Exactly. I completely agree. Well, that's it for the news portion of our episode. Now we're going to get to recapping not one, but two games. But first, we're going to be getting to a sponsor. The NBA season tips off, and so does DraftKings' newest fantasy game. DraftKings Pick 6 is the easiest way to play for big wins, with every possession giving you a shot at real money. Here's how to play. Just pick more or less on 2 or more stats, and unlock the upside every game brings. Pick 6 is available in Texas, California, Missouri, and more. New DraftKings customers get $50 in bonus picks with just a $5 entry on your first pick set. Don't just watch basketball. Cash in. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN. Play just $5, get $50 in Pick 6 bonus picks. Make the call, ride the upside. In partnership with DraftKings Pick 6, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable. Pick 6 bonus picks that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos. All right, Andrew. I've been wanting to recap this game for a while. The Colorado game. Boy, this was a gutsy win. But before we even get to like the actual plays and all, Andrew, obviously Carolina, instead of wearing the normal Hurricane jerseys, they're wearing the Whalers jerseys, and Colorado, they're wearing the Quebec Nordiques jerseys. Uh, I just love seeing those jerseys being put on the ice together. What's your thoughts on just like the display of those jerseys?
I thought it was really cool. I would like to see the league do this more, where instead of just having the one team do their throwback, let's pay homage to the heritage of the game. I hope fans in Hartford and Quebec City can take it as a tip of the cap, and that trying to twist the knife. But
Yep.
I thought it was really cool. It was really cool seeing all the like video edits that people were doing, where they put it with like the like grainy video with like 80s music playing and stuff like that. The guys are wearing the headbands. It was fun.
It really was. And what actually caught me off guard was kind of like the whole dedication to that era, because I'm sure you noticed with the goalie pads, they went with old fashioned, which was so cool.
Yeah, with the old school all leather look.
Yep.
Which is funny because that's definitely like such a quintessential look of that era. But I think more than anything in hockey, if you look back at goaltending back in those days, it's almost comical compared to how it is now. They're like
It
trying
is.
to kick pucks out and everything. But so I think when you think about things like I think this is a good chance for us to think about that and really appreciate how incredible it is. Things like Ovechkin breaking the record, that they're doing that against this era of goaltending, which is just leaps and bounds better than anything they were facing back then.
Oh yeah, it really is a lot better. The evolution of goaltending has really changed, and I mean, just think about it, Andrew. There was a time where players weren't even wearing helmets back then. Like that's just crazy.
Yeah, for those who aren't as versed in like the very older history of hockey,
Mhm.
Google Terry Sawchuk and good luck going to sleep.
Yep, exactly. It's completely different. I'm honestly happy with the state of hockey as it is, because it is a little bit more faster, and I feel like that kind of draws fans to the game just because of that fast paced tempo type of style. Another thing too I want to talk about, obviously Brent Burns. He already played his 1500th game, but they gave him his own ceremony, Andrew, and there were even some thank yous from the Hurricanes teams. I think Jordan Martinook was one, Sebastian Aho was one. But I just want your thoughts on the ceremony that they gave for Brent Burns. I loved it. I love the guy. I really do.
Yeah, I'm glad that he got his moment. The way that he's been able to stay in the league and still play at this level, even if it maybe wasn't what was needed for the Canes, he looked pretty solid in Colorado's system. So, uh, congrats to what seems like one of the real good guys in hockey.
Yes, definitely. Now let's get to the game. So, first period. Andrew, I was not expecting a game like this at all. We had so many injuries heading into this game. I was like, this is going to be very tough game, and it did. It just didn't turn out the way I expected it. But first period, you have Robinson scoring from KK and Riley. Obviously, Nikushin, who I thought was Colorado's best player in that game. It's like every shift, he was just dynamite. And then, yeah, Jarvis scoring, Aho scoring, Stankoven scoring. And I was like, what the world is happening right now?
hmm Yeah, the top guys showed up, and it's a good thing that they came out so quick because they built the lead in the first, and then we're basically trying to protect it the whole game. But you like seeing those guys produce, and shout out to the young guns on the decor, and above all, Freddie. This was the Freddie Anderson game.
It really was. Like, I believe Colorado had like 40 plus shots on us, and he was just outstanding. He was playing on his head. And obviously, there was a goalie change, but obviously, it was not with us just because Anderson was playing superb. But it was with Colorado because they originally had Scott Wedgwood playing goal for them, but he was kind of kicked out, and it seemed like that goalie change kind of worked uh, for Colorado, because I will admit that they were really off. I thought in that first period, and I thought we kind of came storming out trying to prove something.
Yeah, and we've seen this with the Canes too. I think sometimes when there's like a big pregame ceremony like that, and the locker room vibe is like obviously going to be different. You're not going to be getting as like fired up because you're paying respect to someone on your team. It's a much more happy-go-lucky feeling. So I think they were able to maybe catch Colorado with their pants down a little bit, but you also have to give credit where it's due. Wedgwood was one of the 3 stars of the league, if I'm not mistaken. So they lit up a goalie who's been red hot to start the season.
They did, and I was very, very impressed. Now, I will admit, heading into the second period, because I mean we were up 4-1 against Colorado. I really loved it, but I had this thought in the back of my mind, Andrew, being like, Colorado's offense is still very lethal. Netchus, former Hurricane, obviously, he's versing us, and alongside with Nathan McKinnon, Acution, all those offensive players. I had it in the back of my head, wondering, it's very early that we're up. I could see Colorado coming back, and we saw Parker Kelly scoring for Colorado in the second period. But there is some controversy, I'm sure you know about that, Andrew. As well, it was just interesting because it kind of tipped off the glove, sort of. I don't like Andrew. You could probably explain that better than I could.
Yeah, I think sometimes when you get up to such a big lead like that, it's kind of natural to take your foot off the gas. Human nature is going to kick in eventually, and with that top tier talent that Colorado does have, they were able to slowly chip away at the lead and chip away. But they easily could have buckled under that pressure. Feeling like hey, maybe that first period was a fluke. We have all these guys out, and here they come. But it took a lot of mental toughness to hold on.
It really did. Do you think that goal should have been reversed or not for the Parker Kelly goal?
So I think that was a case of when you have to do a coach's challenge, you have to be very specific about what you're challenging. And I think that's what Rod was so upset about is, he was asking what he could challenge. And I think he ended up going for a hand pass. And because it never made contact with another Colorado player, it technically wasn't a pass. That being said, I think that should have been a case where the league looks at it and says, well, you can't play a puck with your hand like that. And it would be one thing if it went off. He very clearly reaches out trying to grab it, set it down.
I agree.
So I think it was on a really crappy technicality, I think it was the right call, but it's a technicality where the league should have just done the right thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, because I remember reading something after the game saying that the NHL kind of made Rod challenge a missed stoppage for specifically a high stick. But there wasn't a high stick. That's not what Brind'Amour was challenging on. He was trying to challenge for the redirection of the puck from Parker's glove. And I think that's what really made him frustrated with that goal. And that would make me frustrated too. And the fact that you can't challenge for that specific stoppage. But I mean, I agree with Trip Tracy. That's something new that I've never heard of, is like redirecting the puck with your glove. Like that doesn't happen often.
Yeah, and not in that circumstance really, because I'm not really sure what his thought process was. Like, was he going to glove it down and then just get an even more well-guarded backhanded shot at the net? I'm not really sure what he was thinking there. But again, I think it was a technicality. It's always funny when Rod loses it, so we got to see that for the first time this season. But between that, the lopsidedness in the amount of penalties that were being called.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think after that they kind of attempted to even it out, which I hate that that's such a trend in officiating in the NHL, because if one team commits 5 penalties and their team doesn't, it should be 5 power plays and 5 against. But they definitely try to make it up and keep it even. But if my notes are right, they had 8 power plays in that game.
Yeah, I think they did too. You're correct, because it was 8. Like we kept making penalties, and here's the thing: I look at those penalties, and yeah, probably most of them were probably penalties. But Colorado, I thought, was making somewhat to the same degree. and they were calling them. So it was just, again, frustrating as a Hurricanes fan. And that's going to be my only comment for officiating for this game. I have one comment for the Dallas game. But um, obviously, Colorado, they kind of established themselves in that second period, Andrew. And I thought and even in the third period, I mean, you have Netches scoring. That was one thing I was worried about, but he scores from an impossible angle. I don't blame, honestly, any of these goals on Anderson. He was lights out, but that Netches goal, man, that was from an unreal angle, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, we really shouldn't be surprised. There was one point in the game where he almost scored on his patented
Yep.
wraparound goal. So I was
Mm-hmm.
glad Freddie stopped that. It was almost like Freddie knew it was coming. I bet with Natchez, Burns, and Drury, there were probably moments throughout the game of just kind of like old teammates, old friends, kind of being like, you know, I have the book on you. You can't do that to me. There was one point I think where Burns and Jarvie got into it in the corner, and they were kind of whacking back and forth at each other.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I would have loved to have had those two mic'd up then to hear what they were saying to each other, because I bet it was laughter more than anything. But yeah, Freddie lights out. Natchez, kudos to you. If it's a former Hurricanes player, they're going to score against us. That's the most predictable thing in Canes hockey. It always happens.
Oh, it does, and we learned that from Jeff Skinner when he was in Buffalo, and
Mm-hmm.
and obviously after the Natchez goal, you had Nikushin scoring again to tie it. Honestly, it just did not come as a surprise just because of the amount of injuries and all that the Hurricanes faced, and we found out in this game that both Robinson and Carrier were out, so we were riding with 10 forwards, Andrew. Like that. That's just that's not a recipe for success. Oh, did I lose you?
For a second there, it's been a little choppy, but we're powering through.
Okay. Alrighty. But so Colorado obviously ties it, goes into overtime. And what I found frustrating, it wasn't the game, Andrew, but it was on that power play that we had in overtime. And it was right then where my internet went out. So I couldn't watch the shootouts at all. I was very. I might have said some expletives when that happened, but thankfully my dad was actually watching the game and he kind of FaceTimed me just so I could watch the shootout. But boy, I was livid when that happened. I even tweeted about that because I was like, "You've got to be kidding me!" But Sam, the former co-host, he handles the internet because he's my roommate, so I'm gonna blame him.
There you go.
In a joking way, of course.
Of
But
course.
obviously, yeah, obviously in the shootout, you have Jarvis scoring, and honestly, what a just such a gutsy win. We were down with 10 forwards, and we somehow still was able to win against Colorado, which to me kind of felt a little bit more easy with us losing to a team like Dallas, which we'll cover next. But what are your kind of final thoughts of the Colorado game?
Final thoughts are kind of an instant classic game. I think Freddie showed that when he's healthy, he is a top tier goalie.
Mm-hmm.
I think it showed that our defensive prospects have a bright future, and it showed that even if it's only for one period, that this team does have the talent at the top end to put themselves over the hump in these games. And you can say what you will about the Canes, the roster, should they have done this, should they have done that. Brendan Moore has these guys playing with their full heart and full effort every single game. So if you're a Canes fan, you have to be proud of the guys on this one. You really do.
Oh yeah, you definitely do. Although Brendan Moore, you can tell he was frustrated after the game just because of the injuries to carrying Robinson. But heading into the Dallas game, I mean, obviously there was a congratulatory celebration, or it wasn't really well. However you like to make of it, Stankoven returns to Dallas for the first time, and Dallas they kind of welcomed him a little bit. What I mean, I'm obviously it was just more of just like, hey, they just put a tribute up for Stanko, and that was it. But what do you think of that?
I thought it was a classy move. Being traded is, I can't imagine what that's like. You think you're part of a team, you're thinking about your future, and then suddenly it's like, hey, you're packing up, you're moving. Now you got to go meet a bunch of people who were, your competition like five minutes ago. But obviously we fell in love with him very early here, so they
Yep.
probably have similar feelings. And it really seems like all parties involved in that three-way trade saga all kind of came out better for it, which that is kind of the goal that the GMs are doing. So classy move by Dallas there.
Yes, definitely. And in the first period, kind of like the Colorado game, Carolina comes out pretty good. You have Jackson Blake scoring right off the faceoff. Great goal. I thought Blake was probably one of our best players in the Dallas game. And then you have Aho scoring from an unreal pass from Ehlers. And I actually thought throughout this game, Andrew, and I do want your thoughts on this. This was one of those games where I was like, I'm very happy with how our our top two lines are performing.
Yeah, absolutely. The Ehlers pass was just the quintessential put the puck towards the net. We'll see what happens. And then the Blake goal for such a young player, his hockey IQ is crazy because it was just a little bit of a scrum off a face off. He manages to find the puck in the midst of all the chaos. Quick little 1-2 deke, and then just puts it up past one of the best goalies in the NHL. So even though the results weren't what we wanted, I think that this is a game that, with all things considered, you can still walk away going like, all right, like we can be happy with what we saw here.
Yes, definitely. And obviously in the second period, Dallas, it was a frustrating, it was frustrating the fact that it was the Heskinainen goal, well, both Heskinainen goals actually, both in the second period and in the third period, Andrew, where like they were off of hurricane deflections, and it's like, oh man, it just sucks. Not only once but twice that happens. What do you think about that?
Yeah, they've had some tough luck with the friendly fire so far this season. I think it's just a matter of just maybe being a little bit too antsy. Sometimes you got to trust your goalie to do their job, and we saw it with Miller a few games ago, and then Ehlers obviously his looks bad, but I mean he's in the slot trying to protect a pass, and somehow the Heiskanen manages to basically put it on the very tip of the toe of his stick. So there's not really much you can do at that quick of a moment, but just tough bounces, tough luck. But that's hockey.
It really is hockey, and it's one of those things where, again, I don't really blame the Bussy who he played in the Dallas game, which I thought was actually the right call. I thought he was very good too, and I'm telling you, Andrew, I know Kochekov's hurt, but I'm not missing Kochekov right now because Bussy is again playing fantastic.
Yeah, let's hope he can keep it going, because whether it's PK comes back and he looks good too, or either of those guys could be a great asset in a trade. Not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but 3 games in, he's been excellent in all of them. And the fact that in this game he went against arguably the best goalie in the league in Ottinger, well, top 5, I think is a fair thing to say actually, but made it into a bit of a goalie duel, and that's very impressive to do that on the road.
Yes, definitely. There was. I'm not saying this was full on controversy, but I think it's another example of the Hurricanes, us fans being a little bit frustrated, in the fact that, that third goal that Dallas scored, which ended up being the game winner. Right before that, was Taylor Hall making a huge hit on Rope Hintz. If I'm Hintz, I don't think he came back for the rest of the game there, but I, I will admit I'm not a big fan of that charging penalty just because, the puck was in that vicinity anyways, so it was just. What were your thoughts on that penalty there?
Well, off the bat, I like that the referees did the 5-minute misconduct call because then it puts them in the position to review it. I think in those situations they should do that more often.
I
Um,
agree with you. I do agree with you on that.
yeah. Um, the only thing I could say to maybe justify the charging is he does lead with the forearm a little bit. I don't think it was to do an elbow to the head, but just kind of incidental contact where he's bracing for a hit. His feet were planted, he was gliding into it, and just because of where Robinson's head was positioned, he does make some contact, or not Robinson.
Paul.
Uh, Thank you.
Yeah.
Makes Yeah, makes a contact with the head. So maybe just because of that, they give it 2 minutes. One of their best players in Hens gets hurt. So I don't love the call, but I can see how that would be how they would go for it. But obviously, we're not going to be happy about it.
No, we're not. Especially when on that power play, it is Heskinen scoring. Uh, but I mean, one more thing I want to talk about the Dallas game about because again I was frustrated with that penalty, but yet like Carolina. I mean, I know we already talked about the power play, but I don't want it to get to the point to where it's sucking the life out of this Canes team. And I felt, and I'm not saying that it sucked the life in this scenario, but like if Hurricanes were halfway decent on the power play, Andrew, this could have been a different game. It just could have.
1,000%. The second worst power play in the league with this talent. That's unacceptable. And
It is.
there's been enough games, or even though it is still early, there's still plenty of time for them to get it right. It's a big enough sample size that it is fair to say, okay, something has to change here. I do put it on the players more than the coaching staff. I could be wrong about that. I know people have been after Jeff Daniels for a hot minute now. Maybe
Yeah.
that is
Yep.
what maybe that is what needs to change. Rod is incredibly loyal to his guys to the point where he's made it part of his contract negotiations, which is incredibly admirable. But maybe it is time to mix it up. But I think they just need to put a bigger guy out there, be it Stahl. Maybe try to find a way to get Svetch to pull his head out of his what and just go in front of the net and then tell everyone else just shoot it. All these pretty passes, all these cute dancing around the perimeter. It's not working, and it's gonna sink this team if they don't get it figured out.
It definitely is. And like I mean, you just mentioned Svetch. Like he almost had his first goal there. Like I remember that sequence where the puck was coming like it was all alone right between the Dallas goalie and the puck. You can tell he was tr- driving the play, although he was the Dallas defender there on Svetch was like right on him. But that's like it's right there. It's basically open net, and he doesn't score, and it makes us more frustrated with Svetch because it's like you have the skill, but you're not using it.
He has the skill, he's not using it. He has the aggression, and he's not using it. I actually made a point to write this down. In the Colorado game, he played just over 16 minutes, had only 2 shots and 1 hit. In the Dallas game, just over 15 minutes, 1 shot, no hits. Then and granted, the hits as a stat is kind of tricky because it sounds obvious, but what constitutes as a hit and what's just
Yeah, exactly.
but one on the book hit in 2 games against that competition when there's this much injuries going on, you're fighting for your spot, not on the roster. I think he's too talented to scratch for more than maybe a games. Maybe sometimes it seems like watching a game from the press box helps these guys,
Hmm.
but 1 hit in 2 games against this caliber of an opponent is unacceptable, and he knows that. I'm not convinced. I don't know anything about this, but I can't help but think maybe he's got something going on in his life that's got his head away from the ice, because there's been several times throughout his career where we've questioned the production, especially with him being a second overall pick, but you've never questioned the effort from him ever. And this is the first time where there's a little bit of that creeping in, I think, with the fan base, and I don't blame him.
Yes. Well, I know there are some fans that might remember him, but there was another player who was very skillful on this team, and he didn't have any effort, and that was Alexander Semin, if you remember that player.
Oof. That is a harsh name to bring up in this
It is.
conversation
It is.
this early. But I mean, he seemed like he had a terrible attitude. I remember when he first came over, that first season, he was really good. And
He
then
was.
I don't know if he got comfortable or what, but I don't. Granted, like the coverage of this stuff wasn't the same back then, but you didn't see Semin having a bad game and then going out on the ice afterwards in flip flops and shooting pucks. Like Svetch is a competitor. I have faith in him to turn it around, but especially if these injuries to Carrier and Robinson are going to be long term, then more than ever they're going to need him, because 6-2. It's awesome that they're off to this good start, but it could turn around quick, and the rest of the division isn't losing.
I know that's the frustrating part, but as the Hurricanes, you can't focus on what the other team's doing. You can only focus on what you're doing. And I mean, when it came to the Dallas game, I think as Canes fans, the most important thing is to look at this from a big picture standpoint. Like, yeah, you lost. There are some things we need to address. We mentioned them: the power play, Svechnikov, but you went 4-2 on this road trip. To me, that is a very successful road trip.
It's a huge success. I think when we were previewing the road trip as a whole, I think we agreed that 4-2 would be a success, but going 500 would be more than acceptable. And that was before we knew about, the injuries they were going to deal with, or that how many games that Bussy was going to play. But 6-2, there's a lot of concerns right now, but hopefully they address it via getting healthy, guys playing better, and maybe this does force them to make a move earlier than they originally planned. But all things considered, I think there's a lot to be proud of the team for. These next couple weeks are going to be interesting, though, for sure.
Yeah, there's I do agree, though, that I think there's more positives than negatives with this team, but the one thing I am a little bit concerned about is just the health on the blue line, just because. And again, I'm not saying that our rookies are bad. It's just I just don't think that's a long-term solution of playing half-year defensemen as rookies for a long time. I don't think that's a successful strategy there.
No, you can get away with it, I think, with forwards more than defensemen, just because you can let your natural skill take over on the offensive zone and then just kind of shelter them from, being a penalty killer and stuff. If it's a defenseman, like if you're caught out of position, I mean, we saw it happen to Nick Kitchen a few games ago. I forget which one it was, but he went to glove down an entry pass and probably should have just followed the puck, or put his body in front of it more instead of trying to make a pretty play to get the transition going, and it burns him. And that's Nikishin, who is a bona fide NHL player already. You can't say that about the younger kids coming up. So I think their effort is commendable, but if this is going to be something that has to last long term, then I do think they do have to do something.
Yeah, yep. Well, that's it for this episode, Andrew. Another great episode.
Crushing it as always, my brother.
Yep. So we will see you guys next time.
Thanks, y'all.